of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
We should be on mute unless we're speaking, I guess, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. Okay, Kate, would you do the roll call?
Joseph Britton.
Present.
Rachel Gillespie.
Here.
Kate Canetta, here. Gladys Cooper.
Here.
Lauren Daly.
Here.
Joseph De Silva.
Here.
Catherine Hodgson. I can see you there on the screen,
Can
Catherine.
you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Richard Janelli.
Janelli's out.
Okay. Kathleen Molinaro.
Here.
Albert Russo.
Here.
And Amy Spallino.
Here.
10 present, 1 absent.
Thank you all. We're going to move on down the agenda. Dr. Sarah, you want to take care of the recognitions?
Dr. Sal, you're still on mute.
Got it, thank you. On the agenda, we're talking about the first thing on, I don't have it up in front of me, and I don't have 2 screens. Is that the donation for the $1,000,
Okay.
right? Kara?
No, sir, it's a recognition, and Dan Donovan is here. Mr. Donovan is here.
Okay, all right, Dan, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. After here we are again, talking about another accomplishment from Danbury High School staff and students. But I took starting to get a little bit smarter as I go through this. So I took a page of Dr. Sal's book where he asks me to come in and speak. So what I did is I turned around and asked the teachers and the students to come in and speak and give you the firsthand knowledge of what happened. Getting a little better at this. But seriously, we're here again to highlight another accomplishment by the DHS staff and students. I couldn't be more proud. As everyone knows, this was an election year and a pretty tumultuous one. But our students decided to step up with the guidance of Ms. Spearden and Ms. Cowell to run a campaign to get as many registered voters as they can with DoSomething.org sponsoring them, and they won $10,000 for Danbury High School. And they're going to tell you all about what they did and how they did it. But along with Ms. Cowell and Ms. Spearden, I see Becca walking around her house right there. And Jake should be on here as well. You're going to recognize them because they're your Board of Governors reps that come to meetings, and they've been doing it for 2 years, so you're familiar with them. But I'm going to let Ms. Cowell and Ms. Spearden take over and tell you what they did.
So, I mean, I guess I'll start. First, it was a collaboration of really 3 programs, the Board of Governors, the peer leaders, and the DECA program. It started out as a search to adapt to online learning. As you know, we couldn't exactly go out and do community service. But the fantastic thing about it was when the kids were put into groups and they networked, I was amazed that they were able to apply so many of the skills they learned across the curriculum. And they were able to go out and get almost 100 and over 100 new registrations, and they never left their living room. It was a testament to their abilities to communicate, work with others in a team, and work across the curriculum and through our Flex program, network with family in the community, outreach to other communities, and then not only just to ask them to vote, but really to pitch what voting means in a democratic society and how important it is that we have such a valuable gift in our community. And they got such a great response. And I want to also recognize the Media Center, who participated in a mock a mock election in the building, and we're able to spread that. All of the flex teachers who participated in encouraging students to get involved. When you are participating in such a big project, it's not one person, but I probably had over 150 students participating in the project. And I think if Rebecca could give you some insight on just some of the things that she did, and Jake.
So I actually have what we submitted to the people at Do Something. So if I'm able to share my screen, I can show everybody what we did submit.
Oh, please.
Go over that. Am I allowed to share my screen? Let's see.
Yes, go ahead. I don't know.
Let me hold on.
You should be all set. I just enabled it so you can share.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I'm letting my dog out of the house, so if I'm like getting up, that's probably what I'm doing. Okay, let's see. Can we just let me know if you can see it? All right. Can we see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're good, Buck.
Okay. So this is what Jake, myself, Ms. Spiridon, Ms. Calafiore, we worked together collaboratively to come up with this presentation because we had to submit this alongside some questions that were answered. And we thought we didn't just want to be like everybody else and submit just the questions. So we decided to submit kind of like a culmination of everything that we did in the community, just in like one presentation so they could go through it and look just easier to, grade our achievements and whatever. So, oops, what am I doing? Okay, so we came up with objectives that we wanted to focus on. So here you can see it says mobilize eligible voters in our community, inform students on the importance of the voting process, because we didn't just want to register people and then them have no idea what they're actually doing in the community. So we wanted to show how important voting is. We also wanted to we just wanted to get students involved on current issues and why they should be voting and how important it is in our community to vote. We did have messages that were spoken like either by Carol. She was an alum from DHS and she has over like 200,000 followers on social media. So we had her give out information. Then we had Mayor Mark give out information. So we had a couple people so we had 60 plus people actually were contacted to give information. And then we have Instagram engagement. So we had students posting on their social medias, swipe up and register. And then that goes to their, so say like a student got somebody registered, it would come up on their thing, how many people they got registered through their link. So it all kept track of which students were registering who. And then through this, people were very quickly to, swipe up, register. It took about 5-10 minutes to do that. So then we did it on Twitter as well. So at the bottom, you can see there was over 2,000 engagements, 2,000 impressions on tweets. We had people retweeting us in the community, different political, people in our community, Mr. Donovan, Mayor Mark, people like that were just getting out the information to our community. And then we had kids make TikToks. That was also part of the program to like make TikToks. Whoever had the most creative TikTok won a scholarship. So we had over 65 TikToks made. I'm not going to show them, but these are just a couple of what kids were doing, either informing students on where they could vote in our community or how to vote, or just creative things, to get people involved. So hopefully this doesn't play, but this is a video of me that I put out during Flex. So a Flex obviously is when every student can be shown a message. So Ms. Cal and I and Jake decided that and Ms. Spiridon decided that I would make like an informational video on how to register. So I kind of sat down and made a tutorial on how to register, how quick it is, and what you need to be able to register, license, things of that sort. And I kind of went over that because I figured students might not be educated on how easy it is to vote. So I just wanted to put it out there how quickly and easily you can vote. So over 3,500 students watched this video, and then anyone who was 18 by election day was able to register. I don't want
Hello,
to, I don't know
everyone.
if
If you
my
don't know
voice.
me, my name is Becca.
Okay. And then this was the mock election that we did in the school. So if you guys are interested at all to see the results, this was the presidential results, House of Rep results, State House results, State Senate results. Yeah. And then the issues chart, what students found to be the most important things in our community. I found this very interesting, very informative on what students may think are the most important issues going on. And then I think that is all. So this is what we submitted again to the, how do I stop sharing? I never use Zoom.
Not allowed to.
Stop, yeah. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So that's what we submitted to the do something, and obviously we won from that. So I just wanted to show what we did submit. Jake, do you have anything to add?
You covered most of it, but I just think that it was just really great to see like how far we could get this. I remember the number of people that we registered being at like 50, and then it was over 100. So it was just cool to see how many people we could get involved. Like so many people got involved with like all the impressions on Twitter, and we definitely deserved the $10,000. So.
Do we have an idea of what's going on with the $10,000?
Oh, Dr. Sal, you want to spend the money already?
No,
Let it just earn some interest for a month or two.
It's all yours. You always use it well. Anything you want to share with? Want to let us in on anything or what?
Once we knew that we
I do
won,
have to say, we are going to buy some sweatshirts for the key people. The peer leaders did a lot of work in the classroom, and some of the BOG people, we're going to get to there, spend a little bit of that money. But I can only say this is my 39th year of teaching, and I have to tell you that from my heart, I'm always amazed what spirit the Danbury kids have, and how much they have grown over the years from the first time I came there to now. And they always step up. I can't even say how proud I am and how proud you should be of that, of their participation and their interest in their own community. They did a really good job. Steph, do you want to add anything?
I mean, I was just really proud. Like, I can't even tell you how many TikToks there were going around, like ones that like, even I just saw like that were retweeted by Danbury Athletics or Mr. Donovan or anyone. And I was just surprised that how, even though they weren't there and they weren't in person, they still managed to get it out and get so many people registered. I think the next closest person was like 30 or so registrations behind us. So we kind of blew everyone out of the water.
Dr. Sal, to answer your question about what we're going to do with it, once we received, which we already have received the check now, I messaged Rebecca and I said, "Come on, Rebecca, how do we spend $10,000?" And she really didn't have an answer, right, Rebecca? She said, "I don't never spent $10,000 before." So we have her working with the groups that Ms. Cal mentioned, and going back and seeing what they want to spend it on, and then as a committee, this is a real bright group of kids who will make an informed decision on what they want to spend it on, and we'll spend it on that. With little as much input from me. They ask me if there's anything teachers need. They ask me if anything that's needed around the school. And they also realize that you can't redo a whole bathroom for $10,000. So that kind of went out the window real quick. But they're working on it, and we'll come back and let you know.
So for the board, we've spent a lot of time with the portrait of a graduate, and I mean a lot of time thinking through those attributes and attitudes we think would kind of define what a Danbury graduate should walk away from their experience at Danbury Education. And I got to tell you, involvement in the community has been at the highest, making connections, and it's what these youngsters are doing, walking their shoes. We're just hoping that we can make that embedded in the work that we do. So as Carmela just indicated, they just rise to the occasion. And it's such a a critical part of Danbury kids that I always hear, the legacies that are left, that we want to build it in so it's systemic. So I can thank all of them, and we're very proud of them. And the money aside, the money is the money, but the actions, the commitment, the connection, the care, the civil consciousness, wonderful, wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you all. On behalf, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you, Camilla. Thanks, everybody.
Kate, do you want to read the public participation?
Sure thing. The board welcomes public participation and asks that comments be limited to 3 minutes. The public may offer objective comments of school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit any expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about Board of Education personnel and students, nor against any person connected with the Danbury Public School System. Due to the unique nature of the COVID-19 crisis and the limitations of technology, members of the public who are Danbury residents are invited to send brief comments and questions via email in advance to dps_public_BOE@danbury.k12.ct.us.
Thank you, Kate. Sandy, do you want to go over the comments?
Or first public participation is Carol Corcoran, parent of a high school junior. She said, I am very upset that my child hasn't been going to school since March of last year when 95% of all other communities have been going. Every single community around us has been in school and made an effort to have their kids in school. I pay taxes for my child to have the right to be educated in an actual school. I don't think the board is listening to the community. I don't feel like my needs are being met. Please don't listen to the few parents that want their kids to stay home. Allow them to stay home and allow all the rest of the families to send their kids to school. I have seen my daughter's mental health decline, her love for education disappear, and her sleepless nights from too much screen time instead of learning from a live person. The detachment creates detachment to the love of learning and to the emotional aspects of all things in school learning bring. I feel my child has gone backwards, and yet kids in our neighboring towns are going to school and moving forward. We can't sit on the sidelines and watch others go to school. Our religious and private schools in Danbury are in school. Abatech, Immaculate, Richfield, Bethel, Brookfield are all in school. Many are in school 5 days a week. Why can't Danbury? It will never be perfect. Please push forward and manage this problem, manage the issues, and manage the virus. Our kids deserve first priority, not the virus. Let the parents decide and give us all options. Please don't change your mind and give into the fear when our kids need to be in school. The message is clear. We want our kids in school. Do it now and work the issues out while doing it. Our kids' education and futures cannot be put on hold any longer. Our next public participation is Melinda Scott. Tonight, I wanted to express my hope that someone will be addressing the big question on so many minds. Why now? Because it seems to me that returning to school in person now goes against everything that the medical experts and health department have shared here in previous meetings. The disruption of classes, the inevitable disruption due to closures, the end of consistent instruction, the abbreviated time to deliver instruction, and the potential risks all seem like good reasons to continue the way we are. And I am just refreshing to make sure we don't have any other comments. And that is it for tonight, Ms. Cooper.
Thank you so very much, Santa, and just want to thank you on behalf of the board. You do an excellent job in bringing those comments forth each time we have a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kate, let's do the consent calendar, please.
I will make a motion that the Board of Education approves the items on the consent calendar, exhibits 21-02 through 21-06 as recommended.
Motion moved
Second.
by Kate, seconded by
Second.
Joe. Seconded by Joe. Any question concerning consent calendar? Seeing none, Kate, would you call the roll call?
Certainly. Joe Britton?
Yes.
Rachel Chalesky?
Aye.
Kate Canetta? Aye. Gladys Cooper?
Aye.
Lauren Daly?
Aye.
Joe De Silva?
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson?
Aye.
Kathy Molinaro?
Aye.
Al Russo?
Aye.
Amy Spallino?
Aye.
Passes unanimous.
Thank you. The motion is so passed. Do we have an employee representative?
We do have, Gladys, I'm sorry to interrupt. We do have a note on there for the accepting of a donation.
Oh,
and I
I'm
don't
sorry.
know if we need to make a motion for that.
Yeah, we need to make a motion to, I always thought it was included in the exhibit or the consent calendar.
It is not covered by that previous motion, so I will introduce another motion to accept a $1,000 donation from the Uncle Bobby Foundation to Western Connecticut Academy for International Studies in accordance with Exhibit 21-07.
Second.
Motion made by Kate, seconded by
Al?
Russo.
By the way, that was, this is, can I just, Madam Chair, let me read something. Angela here is a former AIS student from Brookfield, now attending WestCon as a freshman. Recently chose to donate $1,000 to the school through Uncle Bobby's Foundation, named after her late uncle who died in November of 2019 from cancer. She said the school was chosen because its mission aligns with that of the foundation, which wants to support organizations that promote education, environmental awareness, and humanity. Angela hopes that the school can use the money to support the arts, environmental education, or science for students. We want to thank Angela, one of our AIS graduates. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah, and thank you for just jumping in when I overlooked it. And I know that we will be sending out a thank you letter, thanking them for the donation. There's still a motion on the floor. Yeah. Kate, you were doing the roll call for the motion.
Sorry. Joe Britton?
Aye.
Rachel Chalesky?
Aye.
Kate Canetta? Aye. Gladys Cooper?
Aye.
Lauren Daly?
Aye.
Joe De Silva?
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson?
Aye.
Kathy Molinaro?
Aye.
Al Russo?
Aye.
Amy Spallino?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you so very much. The motion is carried. Okay. Is there an employee representative? Do we have an employee representative?
Hello, how are you, everyone? Good evening.
Hi, Erin, how are you? Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you. And really, that's all I want to say to everyone today is Happy New Year, and to let everyone know, which I'm sure you do know, how hard everyone is working to get prepared for next week when we greet our wonderful babies next week. We're excited about that. And we're also just wanting to let the community know how NEA Danbury's #1 focus will continue to be health and safety of our students and our school community at large. And we thank the board for all the work that they've been doing to ensure as safe of a return as possible.
Thank you, Erin, and thank you for your continued work with the
It's nice to see everyone tonight.
Okay. Our student reps. Jake, Chris.
Hello again. So looking back on December, the DHS baseball and football communities held a holiday toy and coat drive to provide for the less fortunate. The contactless donations went well, and hopefully someone's a little warmer this winter. We won the $10,000 scholarship for best community involvement, as was gone through already. On the 5th, Key Club had a successful non-perishable food drive for Hillside Food Outreach, collecting 255 items in total. We had our first snow day on the 17th, a much-deserved day to relax and catch up. And before break, after teacher recommendations were sorted through, administration handed out Hatter's Heroes Awards to the standout students who are valiantly deserving. Our taste of a day off continued as break began and holidays were celebrated. And in the new year, we wish upon everyone happiness and prosperity after a year like 2020. Thank you, everyone.
No, thank you, Jake. Do we have anyone from ACE?
Good evening, Board of Ed members, cabinet, and community members. Thank you for allowing me to represent and speak on behalf of the Alternative Center for Excellence. ACE staff is participating in virtual student entrance interviews over the next 2 weeks to welcome the new students to ACE. These meetings are the first step in building relationships with the students and their families in an effort to create a supportive learning plan specific to each incoming student. On February 1st, ACE will run a structured orientation day to deliver expectations for attendance and course schedules, behavioral norms, and social emotional learning activities. Students will follow the orientation day schedule with their guidance groups to continue the process of building community as we re-enter the building in semester 2 following the hybrid model. This Friday, ACE will hold a school-wide Google Meet where students and staff will read works and celebrate the contributions of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in an effort to continue the efforts to promote social justice and equity. A special thanks to ACE English Department for organizing the 2021 ACE Inaugural Poetry Contest. The contest was organized by Joanne Tolles, Daniela Esposito, and Melissa Lasky. Students created and submitted their original pieces of work, which were also shared with each other in their English classes. After their works were scored anonymously by ACE staff, we had 5 finalists. First place went to Serena Som. Second place went to Chris Johnston. Third place went to Michaela Oyola. Honorable mentions went to Olivia Selena and Nazariah Battle. Congratulations to all the students who shared their creativity with us. ACE would also like to publicly represent 2 Students of the Week for their hard work and demonstration of the 5 behavioral expectations of ACE. 9 students were nominated, and 2 students who were recognized are Serena Som and Derek Jeremiel. Congratulations to both of you. Lastly, ACE would also like to congratulate our December Student of the Month Award winners, Jalen Batista and Andy Vasquez. Thank you all for allowing me to share what is going on with our ACE family, and stay safe, everyone.
We're moving along on the agenda. Hello?
You're on mute, Gladys. Gladys, can you hear me? You're on mute.
Yes, this computer have a mind of its own. Sorry. Is there any presentation, Dr. Sam?
We have discussions below, so not at this time.
Okay, so we'll go and there's an action item. Joe, DeSilva, would you do the action item, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Make a motion that the Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 school calendar in accordance with Exhibit 21-08, page 33 in the packet.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Kathy. Is there any questions? Seeing none, I entertain it from Kate to do the roll call.
Joe Britton?
Aye.
Rachel Chalesky?
Aye.
Kate Canetta? Aye. Gladys Cooper?
Aye.
Lauren Daly?
Aye.
Joe DeSilva?
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson?
Aye.
Kathy Molinaro?
Aye.
Al Russo?
Aye.
Amy Spallino?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, thank you. Motion's been carried. Now we're to the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, everyone. And again, Happy New Year to everyone. So one of the things I was asked was when we had initiated bringing back our special needs students, just to give you a follow-up on how that went. So Kelly, can you kind of let the board know how that went?
Sure. So we, on November 30th, we brought back our high needs special education students. They came back in a cohort or hybrid model. Students came either Monday or Tuesday or Thursday or Friday. We have had great success with that. I have to commend all the special education related services staff, our nursing personnel, our administrators. It really has been a team effort. And I think it has been, a nice trial of getting kids back into school. In the beginning, I think, the newness of having kids back in the school, some of our students with more significant disabilities needed a little bit more coaching and training on mask compliance and wearing, but I'm happy to report that they've done really, really well with it. We have seen them just kind of fall back into place where we were before we were out in March. It's wonderful to have them back in the building. And like I said, I truly think I can't say enough on behalf of all the staff that have truly just put their own fears aside and done what we need to do for students. Our nursing team has been phenomenal in making sure our parents understand our expectations so that we're able to maintain the health and safety of everyone. But overall, it's went well. We did have an incident where we did have to close down a classroom. And fortunately, everything worked out fine. It was an abundance of caution to take precautionary measures. And again, I'm sure, anxious and overwhelming for some of the staff and families, but really, I can't say enough good things about how hard everyone has worked. It truly has been nice seeing the kids back in the building, and I'm looking forward to bringing more of them back in.
Thank you, Kelly. CIC update, as we move towards tomorrow, apparently, the CIC is going to make a decision regarding winter sports. They were to make it last week, but they didn't do that. They were working with the Department of Health. But if I'm reading the tea leaves, it looks as though they're going to categorize these sports into different segments, that which would be at least evasive regarding the virus, and those that are moderate sports. So tomorrow we'll know more. And my thinking is that depending on what they say, we probably will participate, but with some kind of phase in, much like the summer where youngsters need to spend some time. We don't even have coaches hired yet because we did not know what's going to happen with this. So that has to happen. And then some conditioning and that nature. The competition would not begin until sometime in February, if in fact it all comes to fruition. But so we're going to have to monitor that. So I would say that if it does happen, we'll phase something in with, and then be in a position to follow the CIC rules. But whatever we do, will have to be reviewed by Kara Prunty and Kathy O'Dowd in terms of protocol. And what they had done during the summer was mainly, dividing in how many students attend and different categories coming in. And I think that's what the Department of Health for the state of Connecticut is advising. But we'll know more tomorrow. Right now, we are very uncertain as to what they're going to do. But I just wanted to alert you that is coming up. The PSAT is going to be on 1/26, which is that Tuesday before youngsters are to be back. As you know, the high school is scheduled to come back February 1st, not because of the virus, but simply for the will of the administrators that the courses are at the end. And being that they're going to switch teachers, it seemed to be much more confusing to have the youngsters come in and then switch the next day. So they'll be starting in their regular semester course on February 1st. But the prior Tuesday, students that are signed up for the PSATs will be invited in. We'll open the entire high school. We're going to bring teachers in early. Dan made that recommendations. We've talked with the union and we've arranged for that Tuesday for them to come in, and the youngsters will be spread out so they could be socially distanced. So we don't know how many students will be there, but we'll have the entire campus for us to run it. I keep losing the agenda because my thing goes out. The hybrid model update, I think I'm just going to leave that go, and we'll talk about it under the reopening. We have the budget update, and Courtney has been working with her staff on our new system for payroll, and it's been taking everybody 24/7. And I want to just thank her and the staff and Kim's staff for all of them working together. It has been difficult, and that's an understatement. But Courtney, do you want to update the board regarding the budget?
Sure, Dr. Sell, thanks. Yeah, it's good to see everyone. We've been sort of sequestered for the last few weeks, and I also want to echo Dr. Sell's sentiments publicly and thank specifically the finance and HR teams for just really going above and beyond, taking us to the 21st century so we can have sort of more transparent budget reporting, as well as, a payroll system that really, honors, is able to have us have, our staff can do work more efficiently, provide, more efficient information to people about benefits and their pay. And we just love it. And we're really excited about it and want to thank everybody. So we're excited to kick off the budget season. That's our full focus and attention. I wanted to give an update on the timeline and the schedule. I'm really happy to be working with the proposed draft finance committee, Kate, Kathy, Rich, and Catherine and Al. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. We need to, it's a little bit of a truncated schedule. I want to just not lie to everybody. We're a little bit behind, so we're going to have to catch up. We're going to be presenting to the board on 127, and we're going to need to have a vote on 210 to be able to make our deadline of, it's always this Valentine's Day deadline with the city. So there'll be a lot of work next week. I'm going to work with Kate to arrange a time for us to get together a committee, and with Rich, who isn't here, but I spoke with him today. And he's also, looking forward to rolling up his sleeves, and we'll work with you to get as many as we need to have understanding of the budget. We did have a preliminary meeting, and it looks like, even just to roll forward our existing budget, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit challenging. It's about 5.3%. And you might wonder, why is that? Normal cost of inflation is about 3%. That's because if you'll remember, we all lived through it. We didn't get much of an increase this year during the pandemic year, and the city's in, challenging straits as well. So there's some things that we were fortunately able to do as a result of the CARES Act funding that are CARES Act related and eligible, but that have an ongoing cost. So I'll just give you like two little examples, and we presented this to the finance committee. But we've spent thus far approximately $7.7 million on, COVID and pandemic related items last year and this year combined, a little more than $5 million this year. And some of that is for social and emotional supports. We've purchased some software that will like to continue ongoing, that has been tremendously helpful, that Kelly's rolled out with staff. And also there's some maintenance costs to some of the online learning that we're going to be talking about as part of the budget, to see if we want to maintain some of those components, as well as some staffing. With our CARES money, we were able to hire some counselors, and then also some student support staff that helped flesh out some of the things that we've been doing, that Dr. Kazmira's team has been doing this year. Yeoman's work to get everything aligned with kids learning at home. So some of those things will be what we'll be talking about as part of the budget. I believe it's in your packet agenda because it was presented at the finance meeting to the board on December 21st. And that outlines sort of the details of what we have and are purchasing for CARES to keep our children safe in the schools. And we also presented an update, which is in your packet, on the current budget, because if you ran the current budget right now, it would look odd in that it would show you that there was a deficit of $1.3 million for this year. So we just explained that to the board in this committee, that that's related to that braided funding that we had used this year. Basically, it's just aligning all of the grants with the board operating budget to show that it brings us into balance for this year. So as far as the budget process goes, like I said, we'll be kicking that off, working with Kate to schedule a series of meetings next week in the goal of presenting to the board at the next board, the 127 meeting. And again, it's a big number. It's a 5.3% just to do the carry forward. So we're going to have to make some decisions about the budget and the priorities of the budget within that context. So yeah, thank you. And again, looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you.
Sure there'll be much more to come about the budget, no doubt. So I have two things, but I see on here, I think Kim.
Dr. Sapp, before you move forward, is it possible that we, at this time, any board members having a question for Courtney that they can ask this?
Sure.
Okay. Is this one? I don't want anyone saying that they are being left out. Are there any question for Courtney from board members?
Quick inquiry. Why don't we get something in writing that we can look over.
Sure. For a proposed budget for the upcoming year or for this year?
For the upcoming year.
Yes, sure. Prior to the committee, so Al, would you like something let's see, what's today, Tuesday? Would you like something by Friday? I could get you something by Friday.
That would be great. I need to peruse and study. I'm not a flash genius like Rich Dinelli.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Al. And Courtney, you'll be sending that information out to all board members, right? And
yeah,
if you can't have,
if you'd like, Gladys, I can send it through. I could send it through your office or just directly to the board members, whatever you'd like.
Right. Okay. Okay. So everybody's looking at the same information.
Sure,
okay?
Of course.
Okay. I don't know if, okay. You want me to move on? Or?
Yes, Dr. Sal.
Okay.
I just wanted. That's okay.
That's okay. We have, Kim, do you have something on protocol?
Yeah, so part of what we're doing as we turn the new year and we're looking at the way that the meetings are running, we're looking at who's speaking, who's making presentations, and trying to kind of sketch out where we think the year will go. And one of the things that has come up is for us to take a look. Obviously, we've been making some changes with public comment and comments from different representatives because we've been in this virtual world. So one of the things I did speak with Gladys a little bit about was I think that you are hearing from the faculty and teachers union, but you're not hearing from the administrators union. And that's something that has come from us to put forward for you to consider. And I think the reason why is because many years ago, actually prior to my arrival, you'll all remember that building principals and administrators and teachers were all in the same union. And when they separated, we retained the speaking role or the presentation role for you all for the teachers, but we never put in anything to parallel with the administrators. So one of the things as we're looking at organization of your meetings is to put that out. And I know Gladys wanted me to raise it in the context of the meeting so you could think a little bit about going forward if you want to make any tweaks or changes, if you want to put any time constraints, anything like that going forward.
So I assume we'll get some feedback and a discussion about that. Okay.
Thank you, Kim.
There's two things. One, you're going to start reading about a proposal made from the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents, and also by Katie Roy, who is no longer executive director for the budgeting project, the finance project in Connecticut. You're going to, and I'll at the next meeting, they just published something and I will get it out to you. But ostensibly, the CAPS is looking at redoing ECS for the entire state, to revamp the entire thing and over a 15-year period, and have a system that is dependable and recognizable with a 2.5% increase per year, 15 years. They're also looking for the state to step up to their 50% commitment with the local taxpayers. Looking at also in 2 years catching up to the excess cost funding mechanism. The finance project, on the other hand, is looking at it much more aggressively. I think the number presented to me was like, in order to achieve equity, and all this is based on equity and disparity between, I'm going to use the word haves and haves not for whatever reasons, and that's about $649 million to put into the formula with weighting for ELL, much more than we have, for special ed students, and for reduced and free lunch numbers, to bring in equity up to programming. They would like to see that done in a year. So we'll probably hear on both accounts. We'll talk about the CAPS one, but I don't want you reading about something and not at least knowing there's something there. I noticed today something from Ryan Bingham, our lobbyist, setting a time for us to meet with our constituents, our legislative group. And I think he did ask us to come up with a time. They suggested a time in a Zoom meeting, and we'll probably talk about these things. So at the next meeting, I'll bring this up and we can, for discussion. and I'll share it with you because it is it's about, I think, 30 points that they're making that I can share with you. The last thing I want to mention to all of you, and I said it the other night, I'm a little dismayed at some of the things that I'm reading. And, I know everybody is frustrated about coming to school and kids being home and the social emotional issues, the learning issues. But I got to say, the board has been very mindful of the needs of parents, communicating with me, trying to put us in a position to do what's right regarding safety and bringing kids back. The teachers as well, I think, as Erin pointed out today. And some of the things I've been reading, and not only not accurate, but it's talking in ways that in my view, is somewhat disparaging of some of our own neighbors, some of our teachers, parents that we have in the district. I just would like us to be calm and as we come back, and just to know that the decision that we've made, I know that folks don't agree with all of them, but the lens always was safety. The new lens is looking at safety and practice, and we'll talk about that in a little while, but I did want to mention that and hope that I don't have control of social media, but it is somewhat disparaging to me to see that out there in the public. So I just want to make that statement. Madam Chairman, I don't have anything else. Other than that, we can move into the next phase if you would like.
Yes. Yes, Dr. Sayre, you can move into the next.
Thank you. Let me get my program up here again. Okay, here we go. All right, so, okay, let's talk about the first thing. I just want to mention the summit real quick. The formal follow the function. At the meeting before the meeting tonight, you heard about all of the work that has been going into crafting what the vision for secondary education. That will be melded into the space that we have at the summit. I'm sure I'm gonna have to talk to Joe. We'll have to put together a meeting for the facilities regarding looking at some ed specs that we're going to need to move over to the board for approval, that will have to then go to the city regarding the application. Even though the project's been approved, we still have ed specs to deal with. I received something this week from Mr. Cavo that said that there's a committee that will be operating in the town. I say Courtney and myself will be part of that. As I say, I'm not exactly sure if that's, quote, the building committee, because separate from the Board of Ed, there's a building committee that nurtures the project as they move through. So as soon as I find out more information, Joe, I will get to you. I'm sure we're going to need a facilities committee. The Osborne project, Courtney, I would like to, if there's anything you could tell the board about that, you may have more information than I have on that. Would you like to do that?
We're on track. They've been the architects have been in the building. They're in the design phase, and we're still on track for our scheduled opening for Osborne, or scheduled start for Osborne of this upcoming summer. So it's moving forward along. They might even start a little bit earlier. We're looking to secure a lease. We've secured a lease for the building Rich's facilities group, and we're looking to secure a lease for the registration and Meets group for them for a 1-year time frame, short term, so that they have a place to be until the project's completed. So.
And just for the board regarding building, the Granville project has a temporary occupancy, thanks to Kelly and her staff who's shepherded through. It's been really, really difficult. With COVID, things have not been delivered. People became sick and couldn't work. I mean, it's just been one thing after another. But Tuesday, it'll be open. And Kelly, you want to update the board quick?
Sure. We'll be moving 6 of our preschool classes over to our new preschool site at Granville. We will only be occupying the top floor of the building, as that is the floor that is finished, and we received, the official word from the building department as well as the fire marshal to move into the top floor of the building. That will be enough to house all of our classes for the beginning of our return to school. We will then move into the lower floor of a couple more classes starting a week or two, about 2 to 3 weeks later is our anticipated timeline. I have to just thank, Rich Dalbert and his team, the cabinet team. Courtney, Kim, Kevin, and Sal, and Kara have been wonderful. Honestly, this was a team effort. Everyone from the city on down. We would not be opening if it was not for everyone's combined effort. So the building looks beautiful. We're really thrilled to have our preschool kids there, and we'll be even more excited when we can occupy both floors of the building. But for right now, it meets our needs. Our young learners will be coming back, and it does, it feels like a school for preschool when you walk in, which is really nice.
So at some point, we should have a walkthrough with the board would like to see it, right?
Yeah, I think probably a couple weeks out, once the entire building is finished, it would be appropriate to do so.
That would be great. Okay, good. So let's go to reopening update, and we'll fold in that hybrid model in there as well. Kevin, sir, you want to put up the presentation that we have? While he's doing that, I'll have Kara, would you just update the board about the model itself for the hybrid, and then we'll go into the reopening.
Sure. So just briefly, nothing much has changed with the 612 hybrid model. We're still incorporating the distance learners into the hybrid classrooms. But we've had a lot of meetings leading up to this opening to just double check to see if there's any other ways that we can enhance some of the ways that we're moving forward. So we have talked about providing just a little bit more structure to the at-home students learning day to make sure that, they stay on track with their schedule. They're going to be coming in 2 days a week, and they'll be off 2 days a week at home doing asynchronous learning, but how we can provide a little bit more of a touch point. So we're going to be doing 3 touch points during the day, picking up probably after the second week. So it'll be a morning session. SEL students will be invited to join their classmates in the morning to be a part of that SEL warm-up activity and to kind of overview the day. They'll have an opportunity at the end of the day, which was part of the original plan, for questions and check-in with the teacher, sort of the undivided attention of the teacher at that point at the end of the day. But the part that we've added in is a lesson touch point midday. So on either, for example, if a student was in the Thursday, Friday cohort, in person, Monday and Tuesday, they would have either a literacy lesson or a numeracy lesson and be invited into a portion of that lesson, whether it be the practice and review or part of the mini lesson. And that'll change each week depending on what's happening in the classroom. And the coaches and specials will be making special attention to create the lessons that would best serve that purpose of in-home and at-home and in-person learners. So we think that that'll provide some light touch points across the day to provide structure for at-home, but still attending to our philosophy that when students come into school, the teacher's really giving the preponderance of their attention to the in-person learners, so that we're not keeping kids on the computer who are in school all day, which tends to happen when we're doing full day live streaming. So we still do not want to do that. So these individual schools will be providing updates for parents to talk through that, and then teachers will be sending those schedules out. The first week back in will be just the end of the day check-in. We want to make sure that the focus of the first week of school is really about getting students in, orienting them to their buildings, their classrooms, the safety protocols, and just getting used to the idea of what 6 feet mean in the classroom and how we have to operate. So buses will, as we work through this model, buses will be rolling in over the next couple of weeks. That morning touch point could happen at different times. And so we have to be a little bit flexible in the beginning until we establish the buses and the timing of all of those between the schools on this busing schedule. So parents can expect 3 touch points after the second week of returning. Some of that may happen a little bit more quickly, depending on how quickly those classrooms and the schools get into a routine. So we're excited about that. We think that this will help to enhance the at-home student stay for the hybrid students. So.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question on the K-5 program? If that's appropriate.
It's okay with me if it's okay with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Real quick, I don't know whether this is for Dr. Sell or Kara. How are we handling lunch for the elementary? If I remember correctly, we were eating in the classrooms. Is that still the protocol?
It depends. And that's part, I believe, part of this.
Yeah, we're part of it. Well, Joe, we're going to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay.
The 6 through 12, is grab and go.
Right.
Has a mixture of some in school, some in class, and some in CAP. We'll talk about that in here.
Okay. I'll hold my question for later. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kevin, I can't see it. So Kevin is the liaison regarding the reopening. I'll just have some prefatory remarks, and I would like him to take us through that. You all know that in October we had that turnaround, which was difficult to do, but we did because we felt it was important. The information that we had at that time and the information regarding practice is much different now. And it was based upon the practices in the state of Connecticut and information that the State Board of Ed had been collecting and disseminating to the 169 towns. Currently, every town is in the red. There are towns that exceed Danbury's numbers in terms of infection rates and per 100,000. So many of us are there. There are very one or two that's in the moderate. Then going back with some real questions, and those questions we talked about at the medical advisory meeting we had when we turned after the holidays. As you know, we had indicated to the community that our intent was to take this new information and with a wait time of days after the holiday because of the impact of the virus, we would move towards an implementation of opening our schools, beginning with the elementary, going to middle and then high school. We convened a meeting with the advisors, and we had a lot of questions. As you know, there's a new virus strand, there was many things, and what we were advised in terms of what to think about is that the schools themselves, in terms of transfer rate, what's bearing out is that it's very low among students. The adults are the issues that we're having in terms of community spread and not so much teacher spread at the school itself, but community spread. And the doctors had a unique kind of perspective on that, particularly those that Dr. Beggs, who is practicing and is connected with Danbury Hospital, and Dr. Fong, who's been in the community for a very long time and a pediatrician. The evidence is that the community of adults who are now are very knowledgeable about the virus, the spread of the virus, and those activities that puts people at risk when they leave the institution and our institutions, the schools, and to be knowledgeable that our staff should be aware of and things that they should be doing or not doing in order to keep themselves in a position to be able to come to work. Regarding the school, it was very clear that those schools that have put in the mitigation strategies, and we've talked about ours somewhere in the vicinity of, I don't know, $5 million between the vents, desk, I call them dividers, these little plastic things so kids can be behind them. We have special garb for more intense programming for students. That those mitigation strategies of social distancing, we've gone so far to ask folks not to come together for meetings. All meetings should be done virtually in order to not to prevent any spread. We spent a lot of time in cohorting so that we're able to do tracing if it becomes necessary. We have set up these cohorts that could be by bus so that we can do notifications when in fact it happens. The evidence that we're getting back, now it doesn't, there are some spreads in schools, as the lady, and as the parent indicated today, I mean, just before in the opening and the remarks from the public, the schools in Danbury have been open, but they've also been closed primarily for some of them because of staff, the inability to get staff and to operate. So, you know, that is more of a concern that I have in terms of that happening than I am of what would happen at the buildings, because I'm very confident that we will have the mitigation strategies to do what we need to do to keep our youngsters and everyone safe. Serendipitously, it seems as though, you know, we may have hit a sweet spot inadvertently, that the vaccine now is moving very aggressively. I mean, this whole timing may fall in the position where, as we start implementing the reintroducing our kids to in-building learning, personal learning, may coincide very nicely with the vaccination process. That is evolving every day. One of the things, just so the board were understanding, that you know, they may use the vaccine for everyone and then schedule the second one as more vaccines coming. So Kim and Kathy O'Dowd have been, and Kara Pruntley have been very active in looking at that. I'm just hoping that it does coincide with what we're doing. So, you know, when I see all of those things coming about, the teachers being knowledgeable about what to do, what not to do, waiting these 2 weeks, and then bringing our kids back slowly, I'm sure we're going to have some hiccups. There's no doubt about that. We're going to have some closures, no doubt about that. But I think it is the way that what's happening, not just in Connecticut, but throughout the country. And I believe we'll be in a position to be safe. With that said, there is a presentation that I'd like to go through and open up to questions. I know Joe had one about food and maybe some other ones, but do you want to move on from here, Kevin, for me, please?
Sure, give me 1 second, Dr. Sell.
While you're doing that, for the board, we're going to be sending home a notice on a robocall on Sunday night and Wednesday, just reminding teachers and students about if in fact, you know, some of the healthy protocols, if you're not feeling well, to stay home, where you could be tested if you need to, who to contact, just as a reminder as we phase into this. So Sunday night and Wednesday nights, we'll be sending that home to the 2 hybrids groups that are coming in. And just for your information, we have about 4,000 students that are on DL out of the 12,000 students that we have. So, you know, you have 8,000 coming in, 4,000 at a time on the hybrid that'll be spread among our all our campuses. So that's how.
So,
go ahead, Kevin.
Dr. Salfis, I cannot share for some reason. Kara, I might need your help here. Kara P., can I share my document with you to share with everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, send it to me and I will try to get that.
Let's begin, Kevin, as we do that.
And Kara, there are only 3 pages.
Okay.
Do you want to start, Kevin, or do you want to wait for it to come up? All right. Kim, while he's doing that, you want to update them on the vaccine, please?
Sure. One of the things that's ongoing as we're kind of getting ready for reentry, we're working simultaneously on a number of fronts. But the vaccine piece,
okay.
the way that this runs is that there is a system that's set up by the CDC with support from the local health department, where once folks are deemed eligible within phase 1B, which is about to open, they then ask us for basic information, which includes name, email address, and telephone number. Once all of that information is uploaded into the vaccine registry, then the system takes over. We sort of step out and notifies those people who've been input that they are eligible, that they can set up a file and register, and they can select a vaccination time and location. So right now, Kathy O'Dowd and I are working very closely together, getting all of those lists together. You might recall, I believe we've said in a prior meeting, we've already gone through this process with our nurses and occupational therapists and physical therapists, and soon to be, if not already started, SLPs, speech and language folks. Those are all people who hold certificates that are connected to the Department of Health, and that was how they were designated in the 1A group. So we're preparing for the move to the 1B group. And right now we are marshaling our lists together and getting sufficient resources, because we can't just upload the information. All has to be entered individually. So we're going through the process of doing that now. And it's our hope that we'll be able to complete that. We'll round the bend at some point next week, I would think, or the next couple of weeks to get everyone in. We're about 2,000 employees. It's going to take a little bit of time. But I want to thank Kathy for her leadership on this, along with Kara Prunty. They've been amazing, and they've responded to our concerns about groups and who's being included. And it's going to be a very heavy lift, but I think we'll get there eventually. And we're hopeful that that's going to actually help us, give us a little bit more comfort as we continue to roll open the buildings and we have more staff and students attending.
I'm sorry, Kevin, go ahead. I see you're up there.
Okay, so one, I just want to take this opportunity before we get started, and these are 3 very quick slides, but I just want to share with the community, our principals, our teachers, our school custodians, safety advocates, secretaries, nurses, everyone has done an amazing job in helping to get our buildings ready for the reopening next week. And momentarily we'll have the phases, and we'll be just sharing the phases that Dr. Sal spoke to a couple of minutes ago. One, I just want to also thank Courtney and her office, the Director of Facilities, Director of Safety. The Safety Advocates has joined me visiting all of the schools and speaking to the principals and assessing their readiness and getting feedback from them for any last-minute resources they might need. Needless to say, we had done this previously in October, and certainly we felt like we were ready to open then. We feel even more ready now, given the latest development with resources that Courtney was able to ensure that all of our buildings had. And so we will be a 1-to-1 desk shield in every classroom in the district. And so, we're really excited about that. And in addition to, of course, the expectation is all of our students are still expected to wear the mask as our mask policy has indicated earlier. Next week, we will start with Dr. Sal, do you want me to speak to the schedule?
Yes, just go right through it.
Okay, so next week, our elementary schools, we are expecting elementary students next week for in-person learning. And so for the families who have selected to send their children to school for in-person, we will start the day after Martin Luther King's holiday, and we will start on Tuesday morning, January 19th. And that will be our K-5 students. The following Monday, we will have our middle school students starting, and that will be our 6 to 8 students, and that will be Monday, January 25th. And then a few weeks later, initially we had considered a couple of different models. One, we had considered a 6-12 starting on January 25th, and then we had considered Monday, the following Monday, and that would be the following Monday. I think we were considering before February 1st, and after consultation with the high school, we thought it was best so that we don't have an additional transition at the high school. We thought it was best to start clean with the new semester. And so that's why we're starting on Monday, February 1st with the high school. We also just wanted to give some updates to the community, to the board, some updates regarding contact tracing. and then also some updates regarding quarantining. We received recently some updates from the CDC and the Department of Health. Yeah, I know Kathy is also on this call for anything that I might not get correct, but we've received some updates from the Department of Health, and the 14-day quarantine and expectation has been relaxed a little bit. You can go as we can have a quarantine period as minimal as 7 days, up to 14 days, and we have decided to choose a 10-day option. And this was after consultation with our local health experts, including Dr. Fong, Dr. Begg, Kathy O'Dowd, and Kara Prunty. And so that's why the letter that our families received last Friday from Dr. Sal, it reiterated that expectation. And so in the event we do have a positive case in the community, or if you're a primary contact, the expectation is you will need to quarantine for at the minimum of 10 days. The contact tracing protocol will certainly, unfortunately, and as Dr. Sal mentioned, we've had other districts who have been back in school. Unfortunately, there have been times when classrooms have had to close down, schools have had to close down for short periods of time, and certainly we anticipate those things as well. And we are ready, quite frankly. We have gotten some practice over these last couple of months with the programming that we've had, and between Kathy O'Dowd, the nurses at all of our buildings, and the protocols that our principals have put in place, which includes sign-in sheets at every single classroom in the building, including anyone who enters in the building, that staff, enters the building. We will be able to quickly respond to any positive cases in the school community. So our readiness, we feel like we're in a really good place to open our schools next week, and quite frankly, look forward to opening our doors for our staff, and also looking forward to opening our doors for our kids again.
So could you speak to the lunches?
Yes, sure. And Joe, I did hear your question earlier. And so the K-5 lunch protocol it's not. And so in the majority of our schools, lunch will be served in the cafeterias. And for the majority of our K-5 schools, that is the case. In some instances, lunch will be served in the classroom. And that is almost, in one school, we have lunch being served in every classroom at that elementary school. In a couple of other schools, we have some of our lower grades, kindergarten and first grade, lunches being served in a classroom in those schools. And it's really about how the principal was able to provide supervision during lunch, and whether they were able to provide supervision in the cafeteria or not, help to determine whether or not we can have lunch in the cafeteria. For all of our students who are having lunch in the cafeteria, we have limited the movement in those spaces so that kids are not congregating at any point. And so we have worked with the cafeteria staff, and I just want to also applaud that group as well, because they've been tremendous and very cooperative in this process. And so they will make sure that they have lunches ready on the tables for students as they enter the cafeteria. We will also have shields on the table, helping to separate the students during the cafeteria time as well. And the cafeteria staff and the additional custodial staff that will be brought on will be available to wipe down those spaces in between lunch waves. And so in some schools where we have, maybe more students than we would like in one cafeteria wave, we've also opened up the gym, the adjacent gym space. And so in some of our schools, we even have tables set up in those spaces as well to ensure the social distancing.
Kevin, if I could follow up on that, I think I have a question on this in terms of just the sheer number of kids eating in a room. We have cafeteria staff and teachers on lunch duty, and a whole bunch of kids unmasked. It seems to me that if we were a restaurant, we wouldn't be allowed to do this. The COVID 2.1 sector rules for restaurants, it's 50%, 6 feet, no more 8 per table. Are we complying with, I'm not envisioning a scenario by which we can comply with those rules. How do we justify this? I'm just a little concerned with the exposure.
Yeah. So Joe, our capacity in most of our elementary schools is 100 to 200, 250 kids in our elementary schools. And I would say other than Park, no one really has more than 40 students in the cafeteria. And so in our, our traditional rectangle long cafeteria tables, we have no more than 3 students at that table. And so all of them are 6 feet apart. Over the years, we have, really for efficiency's sake, we've gotten these round octagon-like tables to fit 8 kids at a table. And even at those tables, we only have 3 students sitting at those tables. And in that case, we will also have barriers in the middle. And so we were mindful of those social distancing, protocols. And as you might imagine, our principals and other staff members raised similar concerns as you. And in spaces where we felt like there were too many students in one room, we've asked those principals to open up an additional space similar. And so in this case, as an example, Morris Street, they have like a little stage in their cafeteria. So we've asked them to also open up that space and have a couple of tables opened up on the stage to continue to social distance. The same thing with South Street. We've asked them to open up their gym because their cafeteria is so small. But even in those cases, the principal there has about 35, 36 kids, and 36 kids, 3 at a table, and like 12 tables in that space. Where typically we might have, 8 kids at one table at a time, times 12. So we've reduced significantly in our in-person numbers. And so if a classroom is walking to the cafeteria for lunch, where if we had 3 sections, and I'll use South Street as an example, she has 3 sections per grade level. And on the average to 25, let's just say 25 per classroom, so 75 walking to lunch. Now we may only have 13 kids per class walking to lunch. And so those numbers are reduced significantly now, and those 36 kids will be spread out. And what we feel like is really as safe as we can possibly get. And now with these with these desk shields, we can provide an additional barrier, in addition to the social distancing that we felt like we had accomplished.
Was this just decided as safer than eating in the classroom? Because I thought it was that when we discussed this over the summer, it seemed that was the model we were using.
Yes, Joe, it really came down to supervision and being able to provide the supervision across the board for, you know what I mean, in order to do that. And so, again, in some schools we were able to accomplish that, and in some schools we were not.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, one of the things I've talked to we've had the time to talk to folks. One of the things that we're going to have to do is, we may have to retrench and relook at. So we told the elementary principals today, and all of them, we're going to have to just look 2 weeks, and we may have to just pivot and do some other things, and just be aware we need to be nimble. But Kathy is online. Kathy has been very intimately involved with Cara Prunty and with the State Department of Health. Kathy, maybe you can comment on the return and some of the practices that we're doing. It might be helpful for the board.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Sal. So I believe we have a very safe plan in place for our return. We, as Dr. Sal mentioned, we will be sending those robocalls out on Sundays and Wednesdays, reminding everyone of the need to screen at home, for parents not to send their children to school sick. We'll also be discussing the travel advisory. There is a requirement in the state of Connecticut for international and domestic travel that people must either quarantine for 10 days or have a negative COVID test, that they provide that documentation to us before they can return. In addition, we'll be reinforcing all of our mitigation strategies. So that will include the mask wearing, the social distancing, the frequent hand washing, hand sanitizing. Courtney and her team and Rich Jalbert have been wonderful. All of the classes have been supplied with wipes, with disinfectant cleaner, everything that's needed. We have more than enough PPE. We're well prepared for that. We've established our isolation rooms. And just, in regard to the cafeterias versus the classroom space, everything has been distanced as best it can be. And I feel we have a very safe plan in place to return.
Kathy, could you just mention the contact tracing so the board knows the parameters? I think that's interesting.
Sure. So for contact tracing, I will be conducting that in collaboration with my school nurses. Certainly principals and teachers will be called upon to help us with that as well. So if we have identified a positive case in school, we will look to see who has been what we call a close contact, which means anyone who has been within 6 feet of distance, less than 6 feet of distance, for 15 minutes or more would be identified as a close or a direct contact. Those people will be notified directly. For families, that will include a robocall with a letter. It will include the instructions for quarantine, where to go for testing, and certainly the school nurse's number and my number so that we can be contacted with any questions. Every principal will be provided with a general notification letter that will go to their school community, informing them that we have had an individual. We do not identify if it's a student or a staff member, but we just identify an individual. It's a positive case, and they're just getting that letter as a notification just for their information. The positive case, of course, then will be followed by the health department for them to continue their contact tracing. The school nurses will keep track of the students who are in quarantine and staff who are in quarantine in terms of their negative or positive results. And then in terms of the general public, we have a dashboard, thanks to Gina Jasmine for her help in creating that for me. That's updated on a daily basis. So anyone in the public can go and look. They can see the individual school, if we have a case, if there have been direct contacts, and how many people are in quarantine, and that's updated on a daily basis.
And the 10 days?
So in terms of the new quarantine, you know, the CDC, their recommendation still 14 days is the best. However, they feel there has been a lot of non-compliance with that throughout many, and I would say most communities throughout the country. So what they determined was that we could have two options. The first is to reduce that quarantine to 10 days. So anyone who is either positive for COVID or has been exposed and put into quarantine, that will be 10 days with a COVID test. If after the 10 days, if they've been positive, symptoms have either improved, or for the asymptomatic, it would just be the 10 days of quarantine, they can return to school. However, people must continue to monitor, not only for the, excuse me, for the 14 days, but we expect families and staff to be monitoring before school every day anyway. They also gave an option for a 7-day test out, which meant that someone after 5 days of exposure could get a COVID test. And if it was negative, they could come out of quarantine and then continue to monitor for symptoms. However, when looking at that and the increase, so when you decrease the quarantine, you are increasing the risk a little bit of spread. Reducing to the 10 days, it was minimal. It was about a 1% risk. But the 7 days went up to 5%. And we felt that that just was not something that we wanted to take on. And I will tell you, I don't know of any other district in Fairfield County that has opted for the 7 days. So as a team we met, we've decided to adopt the 10-day quarantine, and that's what we're going with.
For the other important mitigation strategy, and Rick Jalbert is with us tonight in terms of the buildings. Rich, do you want to go over some of the things that you'll be doing? And I know for the board, we've had a difficult time not only getting subs in, we just can't. People don't want to come in at this point. Also hiring our extra custodians. We're in the process of doing that, but we have some backup plans. But the cleanliness and some of the things we're doing, maybe Rich, you could talk to the board a little bit about that, because that went way on my mind. Rich, Mr. Jalbert. Rich? Oh, I see him there, but he's not speaking up. Courtney, you want to pick up for him?
Sure. Yeah, so we had set aside funds in the budget to hire a sub-custodian for every building. And Rich and his team put out a call, and we didn't get a huge response. We did hire a few, and that we've gotten phenomenal feedback. The people that we brought on board, we're hoping as we have vacancies, we'll be able to bring them on board as full staff, because everyone's really pleased with the work that they've been doing. So we can provide you an update at the next board meeting, but I don't know, because I've been a little bit snowed under with the launch of our payroll system, where we stood this week. But I know last week they were working to do the interviews. Maybe Kim knows from processing any of them, if how many we have going, if Rich can't answer. Again, we had a plan to bring on one for every building, but we're just a little bit behind because of the recruitment efforts being a little challenged.
Okay.
I just add too, we are retraining all of our custodial staff in the cleaning protocols. We did a training for all of the custodial staff in the cleaning protocols before, one of our many iterations of going back to school. The protocols have not changed. There's a certain type of material you use during the day for cleaning, and then after school for cleaning, just for the safety of the students, that are CDC approved and that Kathy's reviewed, and we're comfortable that they're appropriate materials. We'll go back over the training protocols with all the custodians. And I just want to commend them for, as we did the walkthroughs of the buildings, which I wasn't able to join Kevin with on this next round this week that happened. But I mean, the buildings look really wonderful. They've done such a tremendous job just getting things cleaned and up and ready to go. So I have great faith that they'll be very diligent, and I think they're happy to see the kids return as well.
So my understanding too is that the backup plan is to bring in people for overtime in while we screen and bring people in for the part-time work, so that we have coverage during the day. The other area I think the board's going to be hearing about constantly, and we're going to hear about subs and that whole backup. And Kim, maybe you want to speak to some of that, what may happen with some of the last minute closures.
Sure. So we have two things that are going on in that area. One that's going to be particularly complicated is going to be folks that call out. So people that are currently scheduled to come to in-person work who have to call out sick for one reason or another. And we've had to make some modifications to the way that we assign sick time and that kind of thing because of changes in the federal law. The Family First Coronavirus Act was changed fairly significantly in its second iteration. So it did not pick up 14 days of paid sick time if you're on quarantine. It did not pick up and renew intermittent childcare. So we have had to put a series of policies and procedures together. And there is, if you're interested, you can see a letter that went to all hands from me that is also posted on our website under the Human Resources tab under the COVID procedures. And basically, we're trying to make this as seamless for folks as we can, particularly those people who are going to be involved in quarantining situations. So they're not sick themselves, but they are able to work from home if possible, which would require us, I would say in a perfect world simply, but not so simply, to be sure that we have supervision for students that are coming into the classroom while that teacher is home on quarantine. So we're trying to work through now all of the scenarios on what the options will be for our staff if they have to call out sick or if they have to stay home for quarantining reasons. And as I said, those are laid out in the letter. It's also required some fairly significant changes to the ASOP system, which we're currently implementing now, some new items in the pull-down menu for folks to select. So that's been ongoing right now, as we also make one final run through all of those folks who have got accommodations for one reason or another. We are, I will just say anecdotally, continuing to get requests for accommodation to work from home. I've probably gotten a dozen in the last week. And as you'll recall, I've been doing those since June. So we're trying to do what we can to support our staff as we get ready to open. That said, assuming that we will have outed people who are calling out, and remember that in a perfect year, in a given non-COVID year, we have days, particularly in the winter, where we'll do as many as 125 absences in a day. So we have been brainstorming on ways to cover absences, which certainly and surely will be higher this year, in large part because of the quarantine rules. So we've had a multi-pronged attack. You're going to see some flyers out and around again, and some contacts coming through homeschools. Again, putting the call out for substitutes, anyone who's interested in being the subpool. The subpool, I think I reported to you at the last meeting, ordinarily stands around 250. We resurveyed in just before the holidays, and we surveyed again now, and we've generated about 50 folks who are very much interested in coming back. The remainder we either haven't heard from or are not interested in subbing. So what we've done is we, in addition to the regular building subs that we place in every building in any given year, we've bolstered that group with a second backup building sub. So we've taken those folks that have expressed an interest to work, and we are assigning them to buildings. We're not going to allow them to move across multiple buildings to the greatest extent possible so that we reduce any risk of spread or breaking the cohort, but we're assigning them building by building. Today, I had a meeting, our team had a meeting with all of the elementary principals to talk about how we would do the assigning and to talk about what that pressure valve is going to look like, what that target number is going to look like, where it may not be possible for us to use existing staff and building subs to cover absences. And we talked through kind of the order of priority of we may have to pull, building principals may have to pull some of their building staff from other areas to put them into classrooms. When we exhaust all of those options, the only option may be to close a building. And that's what right now we're trying to work on, what that emergency plan is going to look like. So each building principal at the elementary level has been tasked with trying to circle around what that number of uncovered classes would look like for them. And Melissa Bang, who's our ASAP coordinator and has been since our inception, so knows it inside and out, is going to work to watch the daily absence reports each afternoon and early evening in order to put up an alert to the building principal if those numbers seem to be rising in a way that they may not be able to sustain opening on the following day. We're not going to be able to do it on the morning of because we simply aren't going to be able to stop children coming on buses, but we may the night before see a critical shortage where we may have to close a building. What she'll do when she alerts the building principal is she'll put in play a series of steps that will include the building principal working with Dr. Sal and with Kevin to talk about whether they believe they may have to close the building. And if that decision's made, there will then be a phone tree that's going to involve robocalls, notifications to bus companies. So we are trying right now to make sure that we've solidified those plans in the event that the existing sub-coverage just is not sufficient to keep the building open. We hope it will be a very rare occurrence, but it may be that this is what happens. So if that is to happen, obviously all of our staff will flip to remote on that day. And so those people who can work from home will, so there shouldn't be any impact on sick time or anything like that, but it will definitely be a last minute change. And I know for those of you who are parents out there, particularly those of you who are working parents, we have watched our neighboring districts do this, and it has been gut-wrenching to watch. Sometimes these calls are coming at 9 o'clock at night, and we're going to do everything we can to give as much time to families to plan for a last-minute closure. But it's definitely going to be an option for us if we get to that point.
So Kelly, any special areas with the reopening for your group of folks? Kelly?
Yes, sorry. So for the special ed for the reopening, we are going to start by returning all students 2 days a week under the Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday, Friday cohort. And then we will look to expand about 2 weeks in. We will look to expand to bring the students that were identified as the 4-day-a-week cohort to bring them in for additional time. The reason behind this is to make sure that we are ensuring, strict guidance we're following strict guidelines regarding the cohorting model. The other difference is at the preschool level. We will bring in our students into 4 cohorts. So there will be a morning and afternoon cohort each day, and then a Monday, Tuesday cohort, and a Thursday, Friday cohort. And that is to keep the class sizes extremely small at that level to ensure safety.
So I think other than Rich, I think we have a comprehensive plan, and yet I'm sure there's some hiccups that we're going to have to remedy. But I think we're as ready as we're going to be. We've looked at the classrooms. I am told that the most important mitigation strategy, make sure everybody's wearing their masks. That is number uno in terms of prevention, and then the social distancing part as well. And to minimize or eliminate the gathering together. So we're doing all that, but we'll see how it works. I think some parents will get some late calls, but as Kim just said, if we open up on a morning and we're going to be 8 or 9 teachers short, we're going to open up and figure out how to do it, because we can't just turn the kids around and send them back. So that's why we're going to try to make that decision the night before. I have nothing else, and I'll just ask my team if you have anything. If not, I got to give a shout out to Kim and her staff. I received something today which I found very moving for me. I'm hearing some of these anecdotal stories about why folks can come in, and they are very heavy, very deep, and very sad. And I keep getting this notice that there is a heart in the human resource department, listening and helping and working through and advising and going over way beyond just the mundane about what our procedures are. And that's from all of her staff. So Kim, I got to thank you and your staff publicly for doing that, treating our faculty and staff with respect, particularly at this time when everybody is so tense and filled with anxiety, and rightfully so. So thank you very much. But thank you, Madam Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah. Before we move on, our board members, are there any questions that they would like to ask Dr. Sarah or Kim about the reopening? Amy?
Well, you're all doing an amazing job. And yet I was wondering this week, we're wondering about when will we be able to come into Beaverbrook as the board and meet in that huge room?
I think right now, as I said before, we're asking for folks not to convene.
Right.
To give us some time. So I think Gladys was going to deal with that. We intend on being in terms of working for us, but as the board, I'm not sure if you want to, wait till the first part, let us open up and then see what happens the first meeting in February. May be a good target for you to think about, but that's something the board should decide. What we have been following, Amy, has been, what the city council's been doing. So, that's sort of been our MO, but right now there is a chance for, as you know, a hybrid possibility. And I think that's a conversation you guys should have, but certainly by that time, it may be appropriate for you to do.
Okay. Could I sort of dive in, Dr. Sarah? Kim, could you go through the protocol for us really going back into the building and what needs to be done before? We just can't say, okay, Monday we're going to go back into Beaverbrook. There are some things that have to come into play before we can even go back into the building.
Right. So I'll start, and maybe Courtney can also chime in terms of that. The first thing is you should all know that Beaverbrook is going to operate on a kind of a modified schedule, and that stems from the fact that we are all kind of squished into our spaces and share an awful lot of spaces and cannot meet a 6-foot distancing requirement. So, for those of you who've kind of poked your head into my suite or Kelly's suite, you know that we're really kind of pushed in. And so we did a lot of work in the fall on trying to really separate our teams that are in Beaverbrook out. And in some places, we're going to have to go to an alternating work schedule. So one cohort is in Monday, Tuesday, one cohort is in Thursday, Friday. Remember too that we have one restroom in that building. We have the men's and women's room that's right off the boardroom. For the boardroom itself, and again, I can defer to Courtney and Kevin, who've done a lot of the logistics on this. But I will say that, you're talking about 11 board members, you're talking about 5 cabinet members and anyone invited to the meeting, and then the public. And that room, you'd be amazed how quickly 6 feet gets gobbled up. And so that's a primary concern. The secondary concern is ventilation in that room, which is not great. You'll remember the air conditioning problems we've had in that room. And lastly, I will say one thing that we have paid attention to that Dr. Sell just referred to across the district is in meeting with our administrators, we have already had situations where more than one administrator has met together and that pair or triplet or whoever it is gets quarantined. So it's pretty easy to wipe out an entire team with a quick meeting. In terms of quarantining, not necessarily sick, but quarantining. And so you'll see as a cabinet, our intention is that we all meet from our offices on our laptops. So the days where we all sat around Dr. Sal's table are not going to happen, but rather we'll use this technology, albeit from Beaver Brook, but with attention to making sure that we've separated ourselves to the greatest extent possible. Because as I said, if Kathy O'Dowd does the contact tracing, she could put out the entire cabinet level team for 10 to 14 days just after a meeting. So it's one of the things that we're paying close attention to. I have talked just anecdotally with some surrounding districts, and they're all considering the same kinds of things in going back to this hybrid model or going back to a full board meeting. And everybody's kind of watching carefully to see how this unrolls. But those are just some of the things that we think about now, sadly, as part of our daily organizational life. Courtney and Kevin, I don't know if you want to add anything more to the facilities piece.
I wanted to also commend Rich Talbot before he went out, but earlier in the fall, he went around, I'm calling it the red walkie-talkie, that's not what it is, but it's a CO2 reader. So there's recommendations for the amount of CO2 in a room that represents the amount of fresh air that's pushed in to a room, and there's a threshold. And he made sure that every one of those spaces, not just in the schools, but also in the administrative offices, meet that threshold, and worked with the city to make sure that there were some upgrades or modifications to ventilation where it could be made to make sure that protocol was being met. We train folks on opening windows where applicable. We're being very effective from home. Even a lot of my finance staff does go in because they like to see each other even distanced. So, we don't have them going in to a small space crammed in all at once, but and they need to do so to run payroll and to do, major finance. We're still kind of paper-based, so we're in the offices. But we feel so the buildings themselves have safety protocols in place. And as far as the boardroom, Kim's right, we're following the city's recommendation. They're not meeting in their full city council chambers yet. We want to see you. We want to get back in. We're anxious to see everyone. I'm very anxious to see you, Amy, and meet personally with everyone. And I think it's soon. I think the Connecticut, we're one of the best in terms of the number of vaccinations in arms. And Kim working with Kathy to get our district up and going. I think it's around the corner for us, and we're really excited. I just think we have to be cautious not to push to the end line and undo all the great progress that we've done with Kathy's health protocols and Rich's work with building readiness and all of Kim's plans for accommodations and making sure that people are cohorting and not crammed into their rooms where like Kelly's staff and Kim's staff are really, really tight. So all of those things, we're being mindful, and we're really excited to be back with everyone. And I also want to commend everyone for shifting to a bit of a work from home model during this time. For us, it's just really been tremendous how, people have just, I think they're working harder. But that said, we're just very, very excited to see the board members again, and it's around the corner.
Thank you.
We'll reevaluate it for the start of February. And, if we can't meet there, then maybe there's no alternative site. We'll have to think that. But that's what I think, Amy.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Dr. Sal, could I just, because the question was put to me as to, when we're going back to meetings up at Beaver Brook. And it was suggested that, some board members could opt out as far as coming in person and do from home. And that sort of disturbed me because, I've been pushing that we work together, support one another, okay? And if we can't get all 11 board members in to work, to come to meetings, then to me, we have senior board members that, everyone is not 100% in their health. And to say, okay, if you don't want to come to a board meeting, then, you can do the laptop. And I truly understand that, but it's not working together and we all coming, all 11 of us in the boardroom. So, I just feel that, this is a pandemic, okay? And certain things have to be in place that we know that's not in place at Beaverbrook. It might be easier for them to put up a big wide screen so we can see the meetings and other people participate in those meetings, but that's not bringing the entire board into the boardroom. So my suggestion was, and it still might be that, is that we look at the last meeting in February or the first week and the next board meeting in February to discuss this a little bit further. And it's still on the agenda about discussing. But, I'm looking at it and some might say, no, we're not dividing each other, but yes, we are. Because we do have senior members that cannot come or would say, no, I'm not going to a full board meeting. So we're going to have 4 board members or 5 or whoever at the meetings, and then we're going to have the rest on laptops. And I'm not comfortable with that, okay? So that was going to be a part of my chairperson report, but I think it's appropriate to say it now. So Kate had a question, and then Joe the Silver.
Thank you, Mrs. Cooper. I just wanted to follow up, Dr. Sal, and I know, I don't know if you're the right person or if Kathy's the right person, but I just wanted to ask about the 1B distribution of the vaccines again. I know that I believe school teachers have been added to that list, and I'm just wondering about the support staff, like our janitorial teams, our bus drivers, our cafeteria workers. Do we have any information about whether or not they're going to be part of that cohort?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kath.
Okay. Yes, Kate, I can speak to that. So the state determines the different phases of the vaccine distribution and who qualifies under each phase. So in 1B, yes, it will include all of our school staff, teachers, paraprofessionals, the administrators, our custodial team, food services, secretaries. So everyone will be considered.
They added bus drivers. I'm just.
Yeah, the bus drivers. They will be registered separately because they are an independent contractor, and I'm providing them with the information on how they can do that. Okay. Everything is dependent on the vaccine supply.
Yeah. And that's what I was that actually leads in. I don't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to get this other question in because it sort of pertains to this. Okay. I'm just wondering what the district plan is as far as trying to make sure people are vaccinated. And I think that this is a tough one because I know that not everyone is feeling very comfortable about it. And obviously that presents some level of obstacle for us if, all these folks are going to be in the same building. So
sure. We can't mandate the vaccine. We're not permitted to do that. We do encourage that everyone who is eligible receive it. Certainly, if people have concerns, they should be discussing that with their healthcare provider. And what we will do, everyone will be uploaded into the system, into the VAM system. So everyone will get the invitation, and then it will be their personal decision as to whether or not they choose to have the vaccine. It's highly encouraged, but again, it's not something we can mandate.
And I assume that they would go to their provider or to a community provider, that we're not, it's not being organized and orchestrated by our district,
for the vaccine?
Right? Yeah.
Oh, no. So when they receive the invitation, we're working right now with the health department, and we will also be collaborating with CIFIC. But when they receive the invitation, the locations where the vaccine is offered, the individual physicians don't have the vaccine right now. So currently we're running a clinic out of Rogers Park. And we've been doing that since December 28th. The health department has been doing that. So when they get the invitation, they register for an account, they select the location, the times and days of the clinic, and the appointments available come up on the screen. They select one, they're given a confirmation, and then they go and they present that confirmation and they'll receive the vaccine.
Okay,
and
great.
it does not have to be in Danbury. It could be in Woodbury, or it could be anywhere.
I mean, we are, we've been working very closely with Kara. We are encouraging our staff, to get it through Rogers Park. That's, readily available, and Civic. But yes, there are other options.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
I guess, Kate, the interesting part would be, I'm making a sign across it, when we all get vaccinated, and we're ready to come back, because, other than those that are on DL, and the state made a decision how long they need to be out, and then the rubber will hit the road regarding those that haven't. What I've heard so far is the districts that have done some surveying, they have up to 75-80% of the folks that are wanting to be vaccinated. So I think it'll be very, very high.
That's good news. I mean, especially because even after you receive the vaccination, they still don't have at least what I've been seeing is that they don't have a sense of whether or not people are capable of spreading COVID-19 even after they have the vaccine. So, the mask piece and the social distancing and the hand washing and all that still is going to have to continue until we really can get everybody vaccinated.
Yep.
That's correct.
Kim, I don't know if you have anything to add. I know you've been involved in.
No, I'll just say anecdotally, we do have quite a few people that have accommodations based on healthcare conditions. And many of them that I've talked to have said, if I can get vaccinated, I'm ready to come back. So I think we're going to see some easing of some of our staffing issues. And, I think the one thing that's hardest to remember about this virus and this pandemic is that, these folks are teachers and educators and paraprofessionals. They want to be with kids, and they're home for reasons that really they don't want to be. And that's one thing that comes through in every single one of them that I talk to. So I think you're going to see that many of them, assuming that their healthcare providers have cleared them for it, you're going to see a lot of people eager to get back to work because they're going to have that level of protection and that level of comfort. So I think we're bound for more optimistic times, honestly.
Sounds good to hear. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah.
Joe, did you still have questions?
I did. A comment, then a question. I suspect my question will be for Kathy. I'm glad we're going back in a way. I'm also extraordinarily concerned. This is it seems to be an enormous risk. Obviously, there are no things in life that come without risk. But when we're discussing mitigation strategies, the inevitability of having to close schools for lack of staff, the risks, the requirement to do accommodations for people, it just seems that this is extraordinarily fraught to be an understatement, especially in light of the fact that Danbury's had somewhere in the vicinity of well over 1,000 cases in the last 3 weeks. And a positivity rate, the state positivity rate was almost 11% yesterday. It's almost 7% today. And Kathy, I know we changed the rules somewhat mind-bogglingly. The feds or the CDC or somebody changed the rules. So the red zone at 25 cases per 100,000 went away. We're 3 times that limit. And now all of a sudden that doesn't seem to matter. What is the thing that matters? What happens to cause us to pull the plug if 10, 11% positivity rate and 1,000 cases in 3 weeks isn't that? Okay. Is there something that causes us to pull the plug?
Yes. So what the State Department of Health is telling us right now, and again, just moving back to August, even October, I've said before, there was no playbook for this. We have not had the ability to go back and, this is a pandemic, the likes of which we have not seen for over 100 years. We did not have anything to go back on. We could only deal with real-time information. So now we've had information for schools who have been in session since September. Yes, they've had interruptions, they've had closures. And what we're hearing from the state is that the risk for transmission in school is extremely low, even with high community numbers. So what the Department of Public Health is telling us now is that if you can reduce the density in your buildings, which we will do with using the hybrid model, we're not coming back full-time with everyone in person. So by reducing the density in your building, employing those mitigation strategies, even with higher community numbers, they are saying that it's feasible for us to try and return. So we'll continue to look at everything. Certainly, if we started to see that there was spread in school, we would absolutely revisit that immediately. I've had some experience, you know, I'm also responsible for the nursing services in our non-public schools in Danbury. They have been open in person full time. Yes, they've had interruptions. We have had closures, whether it's due to a positive student, sometimes it's been a positive staff member. And I can tell you that through all of those quarantines, we have never seen another case spread within the school. It's always been from within the community. So that's what's causing the interruptions. It's the community spread. It's not because it's spreading within the schools. So at this point, you know, we're, you know, been out since March. Given all the information we now know, we know more than we did even a month ago. I do feel it's safe for us to try and come back.
Thank you. And compliments to everybody in the cabinet and the teachers and everybody who's working so hard to get this off the ground. Madam Chair, one final note about the question about when and where we're meeting. I will note that, as Dr. Sell said, we're following the city council. City Hall's closed. It's not just that the council meets by Zoom. City Hall's closed to the public. It's not open. The state capitol building is closed to the public. It's not open. The Connecticut House of Representatives voted from their offices and were sworn in outside on a freezing cold day last Wednesday. They had fewer people in the hall of the House on opening day than we have on this Board of Education at any one time. So we're a little premature for that. I'd love to go back. We're all politicians. We didn't do this because we don't like people. I'd love to go back, but I don't think this is the time. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could I just ask a question to Kathy or Dr. Sell, whichever one that can answer this? The question is, if once the students go back to school, may it be K-5, middle school, or high school, what happens if a student refuses to wear a mask? Now, I don't know if anyone saw the little 3-year-old girl that refuses to wear the mask on the plane. So what type of action will be taken, even if it's one time, then it comes back a second time, that a student
Gladys.
Sorry, Gladys, we lost
That
you
cut
there.
out a little bit.
The board did adopt a policy, but Kathy, go ahead. I'll let you deal with it.
Sure. Yes, we do have a mask policy that the board did adopt, as Dr. Sal said. There are very rare cases where we would consider a mask exemption for a medical condition. And again, that's an extremely rare case. If it's just a matter of a student, again, depending on their age, I'm not going to do this, non-compliant, that may become something that the administrator has to address. We do have some of our special needs children where mask compliance is difficult, but the teachers have been doing a wonderful job with them in working with them and creating lessons on how to wear a mask. So flat out refusal for a student who is certainly capable of wearing a mask is not something that we will be able to tolerate in the schools. And again, those with special needs, we address that individually.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from board members?
Yeah, I do. Rachel. Thanks. I just also want to share my opinion about meeting, of the board. I agree with Amy. I think, if our teachers can work together in a hybrid model, it would be, ideal for us to mirror that model and, at least try to meet somewhat. I don't think that it's, not a matter of we're not working together. It's just, to show support for what's happening in our schools. And other boards of ed have been meeting in hybrid fashion for a while now. In addition to that, I just want to say for the reopening, families are concerned that there will be another last minute change like there was in October. So many are holding off on making, a decision to go DL or hybrid until the last minute. We've gone through all of this, discussing our stellar plans to come back in a hybrid model. So how can we assure them that we will reopen as planned? And I'd like to go on record on, behalf of my fellow Republicans and myself, we fully support and urge the follow through to open schools as planned. We also feel that these decisions should be made in consultation with the board, and we feel they have not been. With the October decision, we found out, simultaneously with the public. So how can we be more involved and informed in the decision-making process? How can we support you and your staff? And with that, also I'd like to know what has been the communication between, the governor's office, the commissioner of Ed's office, and you, Dr. Sal. Are they keeping tabs on us? Do they, are they aware that we've had this prolonged closure since March? And are they concerned?
Well, let me just start here. The decision that we made in October was a last minute decision. I don't know how the board could have been involved, so I take full responsibility for that. I think the board has been advising me, and I've been keeping folks up to date. Certainly, I would take that advice from you. But that occurrence that evening was that evening. There is no reason for us not to open. I think Joe just put out there the big question. We're going to open unless the governor says don't open. Then I can. You have the executive order gives your Department of Health the decision-making recommendation for us not to open. But at this point, she is on board with us, as Kathy just mentioned. So we intend on opening. Regarding the State Board of Education, I put them on notice that we are opening before Miguel was even assigned to Washington. And I just sent something up to them this past week that we're opening. So they fully know that we're opening. From the pressure from Hartford, the mayor kept transmitting to me, the governor, his conversation with him, why we're not opening. During all of those times, I spoke with Miguel, and at that time, the practice in October and November was different, and understood that the town was differently impacted by the numbers, and we had to do what we had to do. But certainly, my intent has been to return. They know that we want to return safely, and that's where we're at right now, Rachel. We're going back. I told the administrators that we're going back. I did also inform the state that we're going back. With that, going back means disruption. Going back means it's going to be the way of life. As I said it from the bottom of my heart before, I'm hoping that we're going back in a sweet spot in conjunction with these vaccinations, which I think will give us all a better feeling of safety. But we're going back. And if we're not going to go back, it'd have to be an edict that me, couldn't say we can't do it. It'll be from the governor. And I don't see that happening at this point. He has been encouraging us to be in school. And I've spoken to districts now that exceeded our numbers. They are in, some are even in K-5 with 18 in the class at 3 feet apart. I'm not saying we're going there. And they're experiencing what Kathy told you. So that's the new information informing us. With that, we still have to be very mindful and careful of the mitigation strategy. So I don't see us not going in. I really don't. I see it as getting disruptions, as Kim just explained, but that's going to be the way of life at this point. So that's what I see.
And at some point, I'd like to know how our students have fared academically through this, the closure. You typically in non-pandemic year, we would the board would receive, presentation, data presentations, and I know that there have been, assessments done. Just curious if, we could possibly be updated on how students are doing.
Yeah, I mean, that'll, as we start collecting information, we can do that, sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Sam? Next thing, are you finished, Dr. Sam?
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
Okay, no, thank Kathy O'Dowd for always being here to help answer questions that come up. Next thing on the agenda, because we're, getting past 9 o'clock. Next thing on the agenda is the board chairperson report, and you all receive your committee's assignments, and this is not the final draft. If you want to change or want to look at some of the other PTOs, the PTOs and the district committees, and if your name is not where you had put it at, just have Kara put the information in, and we'll have this list finalized by the next board meeting. If you want to chair a particular committee, please let Kara know so we can finalize the information by the next board meeting. I certainly would like to thank Kate and Kathy Martinero for always working with me when something come up to try to help me put it sort of in a line so we can put it forth to you. And also Kara, Dr. Sayers' secretary. On Tuesday, Al and myself and Kate attended the workshop for Kate. Al, did you want to speak briefly about the workshop? What do you feel about the workshop? Or he's home? Al?
I'm here, Gladys.
Okay, Al.
I think we are above the curve when it comes to either a united board or the topic of the webinar was civility. Mm-hmm. And I think as a group, we work very well together. And we should give me 2 minutes to prepare something formally, but off the top of my head, Gladys, we work well. I realize that we have differences of opinion, but civility is being able to communicate those differences in a positive manner rather than lay it out personal or turn it into a political snowball. And I feel very fortunate to be able to work with this group. And yes, we are a cohort. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. And matter of fact, we have another workshop tomorrow afternoon, right?
We do.
So the second workshop. And finally, I'd just like to say, when we come back to going back to Beaver Brook, and I stated it earlier, we are going to look at February as to if we can go back in person and the necessary items that need to be corrected in order for us to go back to Beaver Brook are in place. I don't have any problem with that. So saying that, along with, I hope by the time we do go back, that everyone has been vaccinated, okay?
Gladys, bringing up the topics of vaccination, if I can just go off script a few minutes for one moment. Kara Prunty, how do I sign up? I'm over 68.
That's a great question.
Meetings again. Okay.
So we have a survey on our website right now. Currently, right now it's 75 plus. That's the guidance that we've been given. You can still fill out the survey because I'm sure that that's going to be changing as it has a million times before. So if you fill out that survey, we'll have that information and then we can send you an invite into VAMS.
To be on the regular city page, webpage?
Yeah, we have a vaccination page on the city website and there's a survey. It says 75 plus. It's a big orange button. You just click that and fill out the survey.
Thank you. I don't want to push 70. I don't want to be quite 75 yet, but.
Okay, Al, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Is there any other discussion?
I have just a few quick things
Yes.
from the PTOs. The citywide PTO met on Monday. And I just want to thank Dr. Sal, Kevin, and Ann for being there to provide updates to families. There are minutes of the meeting on the citywide PTO website, if you'd care to peruse them. Also, Westside Middle School is looking for judges for the Science and Engineering Expo on next Wednesday, January 20th, and that's virtual. But they could use some volunteers if any board members would like to volunteer. You can get in touch with Sandy or Dr. LaBanca. And then I just had a question on the committees. Is there a need to assign negotiations this year? Yes, there is.
Yes.
So then could I request that there be a Republican on each of those committees?
Could we have a discussion about that tomorrow?
Okay.
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 Any other questions? Seeing none, I ask the motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Moved
I'll
by
second.